I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. As always, I am your host, Fantasy EO Tycoon. Tonight's episode, we are a little bit late this evening. For those of you on the East Coast, you are quite literally going to be burning the midnight oil, but we'll make it worth it. We're not going to keep you 2 hours like we did last week. We'll make this a little bit more compact, a little bit more efficient. We'll get in and out. We'll have some fun along the way. So, the episode this week, thinking back to week 5, is pain and comfort. Pain in the form of some more big name injuries, some other injury scares, thankfully, that don't seem to be as bad or even prove not to be as bad on Sunday as we originally thought. And comfort because, well, once again, much like week 4, we saw a lot of the same familiar faces once again dominate the fantasy leaderboards. Warms your soul. And we'll just jump right into the agenda. No need to preview the various segments here. And as always, we're going to begin with performance reviews. First up, running back Damian Williams. Important to note him because he was, of course, following David Montgomery's injury, the waiver wire ad. And he really didn't disappoint. I mean, if you were expecting Montgomery performance, I would say that's on you. Definitely shouldn't have. But thankfully, he did turn in a very solid performance. 18 touches, 84 yards, scored a touchdown, 3 targets, 2 receptions as well, finishes the RB 22 overall. So a top 24 performance is really all you can ask for, honestly, when you're picking up a guy like this. And he absolutely delivered. And that's what we should roughly expect as long as Montgomery is out, and we should be satisfied if that's what we get. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. And the reason they're our team of focus here for performance reviews is just because they are an absolute fantasy goldmine. I mean, Josh Allen is going to be in the running for a quarterback 1 overall. Zach Moss has proven to be a viable RB2 many weeks. Even Singletary's having some flex-worthy performance. Dawson Knox, I mean, all of a sudden a trustworthy fantasy tight end, an asset we have very, very, very few of. Diggs, while we're not getting the production that we want from him right now, the usage is still elite, and the results will come for your fantasy team. Believe that. Believe that. Tyler Bass, top kicker in fantasy. Buffalo defense, special teams, top defense and special teams in fantasy. I mean, just get yourself as much Buffalo as you can. Buffalo sauce that. And the position of focus for our performance reviews is tight end. Somewhat related to, well, Dawson Knox was a part of this. Typically just an absolute barren wasteland this position is. It absolutely boomed this week. The top 10 at the position were all in double digits in points. The top 5 all had 19.5 or more points. We had a 40 burger from Mandrews. Dawson Knox was balling on Sunday Night Football. Njoku and Pitts had big games. A nice breakout for Pitts, taking advantage of his opportunity with Ridley and Gage out of the fold. And then high-paid Henry, his usage is increasing. He's slowly taking over as the fantasy tight end owned there in New England. And Dalton Schultz is continuing to show some strong consistency. So it's just a fantastic week for the position. This is wonderful. We love to see this. We love giving positive reviews on tight ends because, well, frankly, we just don't get to do it very often. Stock rising. is our next discussion here this evening. And we're just going to circle right back to what we were just talking about. Dawson Knox and Dalton Schultz. Big days again for the tight end duo. These guys are not going anywhere. They should be locked and loaded in your lineups unless you are able to draft one of the elite tight ends, one of whom is injured. So unless you're one of the two teams that ended up with Kelsey or Waller, you should have Knox, Schultz in your lineups. And then this is one that, it doesn't really hurt because sometimes you're simply flat out wrong. And I was wrong about this, man. Jalen Hurts. Absolutely, stock is continuing to rise. I mean, he's been there for a couple weeks at this point. Didn't really get a chance to address him last week, but Jalen Hurts is a guy that is, again, locked and loaded QB1. And he's got the safest floor of any quarterback. He has never started and finished a game without finishing as a quarterback one. And it's really a stark reminder to separate fantasy football from, reality, from what's really happening on the field. Now, Hurts is a terrible. If you know me, I'm not big on him as a real life prospect, and I let that translate far too much into my fantasy opinion of him. But the rushing floor is there. The lack of much other talent on the team in general is there. I mean, Devontae Smith is great. Gainwell's flashing. Goddard Nerds, so he's got to do a lot himself, and he is in fact doing it. So if you didn't already have him there, I mean, he's just a set it and forget it guy himself. Do not worry about him. Look for him in DFS regularly. This is a guy you'll want on your team, at least for this year. Dynasty, I'd still be a little cooler, but in redraft, stud. Just an absolute stud. Darrell Henderson is my next guy. Little concern after he missed a game with injury. However, came back with a 90% snap share in his first game back, only 66% this previous week due to him having a little bit of an injury again, but came back, was just fine. And it's clear that McVay wants to stay committed to the run game. And it's clear that in that run game, Mr. Henderson is his guy. Absolutely his guy. So as long as he's healthy, I mean, you're looking at high-end RB2, low-end RB1 regular production here from Henderson. So stick with Henderson. And then finally, in our risers here, Hollywood Brown. He's wide receiver 6 on the season. Lamar Jackson, just Baltimore passing game going up. Absolute stud. I mean, if he had hauled into anything against Detroit, I swear, this guy would be probably up in the top 3. I should have run those final numbers, but he is number 6 on the year. And this Baltimore passing attack appears to be for real. I mean, Lamar's progressed tremendously. So has Hollywood. He's staying on the field, which is, step number 1, and is just taking full advantage of the lack of running backs, or at least useful running backs that the Ravens have, and absolutely tearing it up. So Hollywood, stock rising. If anybody is still believing this is a farce, go see if you can make a move for him. Dem boys, what up? What up, man? Glad you're joining us. Thanks for being here. Shane, dude, your beard is glorious. I mean, you generally have a glorious beard yourself. It's been too long since I've really had my own. Letting it go. Why the hell not? I mean, I'm the fantasy CEO. I can do whatever I want. And right now, dress code says beard. But welcome, Shane. Glad to have you in the boardroom, my friend. So, what goes up, of course, must come down. So, stock falling. This one might be a little easy here at the quarterback position, but Derek Carr, after averaging 401 yards the first 3 weeks and just starting the year at a scorching pace, really cooled off the last couple of weeks. And now the Raiders are in turmoil, culminating in the ouster of one John Gruden. I don't know if you heard, John Gruden's out. So considering the state of the Raiders, the special teams coach Rich Bisaccia coming in and taking over, it feels off. Who knows really what's going to happen there? There's just a lot of risk at this point. Although on the flip side, I would love to see Carr just decide to do what he wants at this point. I mean, I'm not going to get rid of him during the year. Bisaccia is not going to keep this job, so excuse me. So just go out there. Oh, helmet doesn't work. Can't hear you. Go run your own play. See what you can do. Let's go. Have some fun, Derek. What does it matter now? Running back, and then another easy one, Miles Sanders. I don't know if he parked in Nick Sirianni's spot before practice every day or what exactly is going on, but they are simply not using him. I mean, that's it. It's really not that hard to break down. Sometimes you don't need to overthink things. After getting a paltry, 2 attempts in week 3, 7 attempts in week 4, and then 11 attempts in week 5. Now, thankfully, in week 5, he also ended up with 5 receptions. Unfortunately, those 5 receptions only went for 6 yards. So this is just not an encouraging situation. And there's really no reason to hold out much hope for Miles right now. Adam Thielen is our faller at the wide receiver position. Again, this one's kind of obvious, kind of sad. He's had 50 yards or less in the last 4 games, so every game but the first this year. No touchdowns the last couple of games. It's just dwindling. It's the Justin Jefferson show. Cook will be back soon. Until those touchdowns start coming back, want nothing to do with Thielen. And finally, in congruence with our earlier tight end discussion, Hunter Henry, the highly paid man out in New England, well, he has supplanted this more highly paid man in Jonnu Smith, who is simply falling. Henry is getting the passing work, the fantasy production output is coming from him, not from Jonnu. I would stay away from Jonnu until there's any reason. Well, not until there's any reason, until there's plenty of reason to give him the second chance. Because right now, it's going to be Henry. It's not going to be Jonnu. Forget about it this year. Now, we can't go through a board meeting. Never can we get through a meeting at the boardroom without honoring our employee of the week, or in this case, employees of the week. And what do you know? More congruence, which is more comfort. And they are Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Of course they are. I mean, what is there to say? I think I used this phrase one of the last times that we had the co-players of the week, but we all saw it. Just bask in the greatness, soak it in. Lamar's growth as a passer has been outstanding. His ability to control a game in a stronger way, if he can stop fumbling at the goal line, that would be, much better position. But he's becoming a better quarterback. And I think missing all those running backs has actually kind of helped him in that regard. But it's beautiful. What can I say? It's just absolutely beautiful. Thrilled to have Lamar on my Scott Fishbowl roster. And Mark Andrews. Just dominant performance. We've never seen anything like that from him. He could not be stopped. Truly unstoppable. And just truly an incredible football game. Everything about it just left you in awe. So even if it's a small amount of recency bias, it having been the most recent game we watched, doesn't really matter. It was the most impressive performance that we saw this week. So, co-employees of the week, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Dustin chiming in second best beard in showbiz. You know what? I'm going to reluctantly concede right now, Dustin, but that's only because this is still a little bit fresher. I don't even think I got a month here. You do have a glorious beard yourself, but you've got the time into it. See, I don't have this, so it's not really a fair fight. So, I mean, you win, but there's kind of an asterisk. No offense. And a hearty yo from our boy Anthony, a.k.a. Rasta. Dustin Ross from the Get Right crew. Thank you, fellas, for jumping in. We always love having you show up here in the boardroom. It's what's up. For your audio listeners later on when that version gets released, Dustin, of course, just sharing the love. We got the emojis with the hard eyes. Yeah. You too, man. And, of course, the asterisk. And so we're going to Now, before we keep going on with the agenda, because there's not really an agenda item to cover with this, and that is the pain part of this episode that we alluded to in the title. And that is the injuries that we saw this week. Saquon, hopefully that's not too bad. We don't really have a timetable yet. I think there's still a wide range of news that we can hear. Hoping for the best. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is put on IR, so he's going to be out at least 3 games. I imagine maybe a little longer. We saw Daniel Jones go down with a concussion. Justin Fields gave us a scare at one point. Trying to think who else. It felt like guys were dropping like flies. We saw Max Williams, hot tight end commodity off the waiver wire earlier this year, the Arizona Cardinals. He is now done for the year. That was a really gruesome knee injury. Trey Lance sprained his knee the day after, or was it? Yeah, on Monday. So Trey Lance has a sprained knee and might miss the Colts game following the bye. So we'll see if Garoppolo is back by then. Just everywhere you were looking, you're seeing guys on the ground. Pain. Oh, Zeke gave us a scare too when he landed on his back on a first down pylon. That was fun. But then, of course, high step to the end zone, all as well. So thankfully, we have all of the rest of this news to be able to turn to for our comfort. But man, just the injury reaper does not stop. I thought 2020 was bad. This just feels gut-wrenching at times. But back to the more positive news. After we address Dustin's comment, Schultz over Knox. The only reason I would say yes to that, and do say yes to that, is more regular targets. Knox is being targeted where and when it matters, but Schultz is getting some of those as well. But Schultz is also getting usage at other times. I mean, he's clearly somebody that Dak is looking to go to at times, and a lot of times. Whereas Knox, just getting like 4 targets a game, I think. So it doesn't feel quite as sustainable, especially with this high touchdown rate. But with that said, I mean, I think it's a very deliberate plan by Buffalo, and I think that's exactly the kind of looks he's going to continue to see. Some people saying, oh, is this year's Robert Tonyan? Well, okay, even if that proves to be the case, okay, 10, 12 touchdowns, you will happily take that. I think he's got 4 in the year so far. Don't complain. Just ride it. Tight end sucks. Both these guys are awesome. I don't even need to compare them. But yes, if you do need to rank them here, Schultz over Knox. So, positive news. Comforting news. We do have some promotions. A guy who had just been demoted, actually, immediately earned his way right back into the starting lineups. That's right. You know it. You know who it is. You know him. You love him. Myles Gaskin, Miami Dolphins, running back. 30 spot in PPR last week. I think it was 11 catches. Just monster. We talked about how he kind of disappeared from that screen game. And then, of course, the Dolphins coaching staff says, oh, yeah, screw you, Boardroom. We'll show you. We'll show you. And they did. Damn, did they. So Gaskin, especially, again, with even more running back injuries and their replacements being, yeah, Gaskin's back in your lineup. If he's on your roster, he's playing. It's that simple. And Kadarius Toney. Now, until the New York Giants wide receiver crew is whole again, that is kind of the caveat here. But until then, he's going to be in your lineup. He might even be after that. I don't think he's going to threaten Shepard very much. Shepard's role, I think, is going to be secure as soon as he's healthy. But Slayton? I don't know. Not so sure about that. Galladay? Yes, only because it's a very different role that he plays. But is he going to continue to deal with these injuries? It's something that's really becoming a concern for him. So we can't even be sure that he's going to be on the field. So with that, yeah, I think you can stay pretty optimistic about Toney. And he's probably still very lightly owned. Go get him. Now, demotions. Of course, we don't have room for everybody if we're promoting people. Payroll is limited. Resources are somewhat limited. We only have so many spots. It's just how it works. So Guys, I'm sorry to do this. Adam Thielen, you are benched. The usage and production, as we discussed earlier, is just not there. You're not getting the yardage. You're not getting the catches. You're not getting the touchdowns. And they've been short-handed. They've had Cook the last couple of weeks. Now Madison has balled himself, so I guess that part of their game has still been there. But still, if he's not doing it now, when is he going to do it? And Nyheim Hines, you're also getting sent down. You're demoted. Now, the lack of more JT usage out in Indianapolis is just baffling. I will not. I don't understand Frank Reich. I don't understand Bill Lazor. I don't understand the Colts. Taylor houses one for 76 yards, and their answer is, all right, let's get Marlon Mack in the game. So, anyways, Hines has also not been producing lately. He had carved out himself a really nice receiving role last year, and I kind of expected that to continue this year because you knew they weren't going to give JT the touches that they should. But in 3 of the last 4 games, 2.7 points, 0.1 points, 1.8 points. Now, we did mix in that 16 spot against Tennessee in week 3, but that just seems like kind of like Ronald Jones last year. You're just shooting for one of the 3 or 4 sweet games that he might have, but Hines, you're on the bench, man. And we just referenced this man, but Big Bob Tonyan. 2020 is clearly over, pal. Red Pine. It's done. You're joining the rest of the tight ends where you had been all along, and the flash in the pan is over. R.I.P. Bob. Now, recruiting. With demotions, it kind of feels like these guys might be even edging their way out. So we do need to stay on top of things. We do need to recruit, get fresh blood, new blood here on our teams. And the obvious top 2, back to the Saquon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire injuries, are, of course, Devontae Booker and Darrell Williams. Neither is going to, in my opinion, give you – they are not replacement players for Barkley and CEH. It's just the backups don't always step up and produce similarly. A lot of people seem to falsely buy into that. Don't be one of those people. Now, Booker is probably more of the priority because the running back role is just not that significant in Kansas City. So Booker is really the one you want of the two. He will get some run. I think he's got better touchdown opportunity. That's the one you're going to ride because they also don't really have much beyond Booker. So go for Booker. Now, another injury, Quintez Cephas. He's out for the year. So you should be adding Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, to your teams. If you're not, change that. He has been their leading wide receiver the last couple of weeks, and he is also still widely available. Now, I know nobody's really thrilled about adding the top wide receiver in the Jared Goff offense in Detroit. Understandable, especially when the top receivers, DeAndre Swift. Well, not necessarily by yardage, but you know what I mean. But St. Brown, he's just going to get the play. It's really just a matter of opportunity. That's simply what it is. He's in the right place at the right time. Even if you're not playing him, make sure you have him on your bench. Keep an eye on his continued performance. And then lastly, and I've been talking about this man for a while, and I'm not going to stop, Rashad Bateman, Shoddy B. So as been just blown away by the Baltimore offense, particularly the most recent performance, thrilled about Lamar's growth, as I've been thrilled about the evolution of the passing game in Baltimore. I share similar excitement for Bateman. Now, if you've been listening to me, you know that I actually believe that Bateman was going to be one of the primary reasons for said transformation. Now it looks like that has already taken place. He's going to be able to benefit from stepping into that situation, which is even more glorious. And the growth of Hollywood. Now, I had predicted that Bateman was going to step up and be the wide receiver one right away. I did not anticipate this level of just progression and, possibly a jump to stardom here for Hollywood. So maybe he's not going to step into that number one position, but they are both going to eat him. I mean, this is going to turn into an elite passing attack real quick. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a three-headed monster. And honestly, Brown balling like this could be the best thing that ever happened for Bateman, because now Bateman is not going to be facing top coverage. I can't even explain how excited I am for this. Rashad Bateman, we are so close. I know I don't think any of us ever really expected him to be there Monday, but it feels like an outside chance for this week. Maybe it's going to be next week, but it is coming soon. It's going to be real, and it's going to be spectacular. Rashad Bateman. Go at him now before somebody else does, because as soon as he's active, as soon as he plays the game, it's over. Now, we haven't done this in a couple of weeks. We ran out of time. We had so many questions in the live chat last week that we were not able to discuss branch transfers at all. And this week, we really are only focused on bringing some folks in. And those folks are Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown. I mentioned them together because the reasons that we want to get them are really the same reasons. They fit the same bill. They both are still sporting elite usage, particularly in the case of Diggs, because he's also getting the volume. We need a little more volume from the Titans. And in the case of Diggs, the offense is spectacular. Again, not so much for Tennessee right now, but I still do believe better days are ahead. Both are going to produce as you expected, and both are going to do it soon. In fact, I'm telling you, you need to go buy right now, this weekend, before they both show out on Monday night. I'm telling you, they are both going to have outstanding games on Monday night, and this buy low window that is stretched far longer than I expected is going to be slammed shut, because these are the kind of guys that only need one big game to remind everybody why they drafted them in the first place and why they are not going to get rid of them. So go get Diggs. Go get Brown. Because if you have a frustrated owner, target those 1-4 teams with these guys, 0-5. I mean, you've got a shot. And if you're in a better position, no doubt you can offer that 2-for-1 with somebody you don't really need. Or you can offer up somebody, shit, I would still trade Mike Williams for Stephon Diggs right now. It's hard to say, but it's something I would probably do. But see, the thing is, you could trade Williams for Diggs and something, and that I would particularly encourage you to do. But I digress. Either way, go find a way to make a deal for Diggs and Brown, because the window is about to pass, and they're going to have huge Monday night games. Be there and profit from their first big games of the year. Before we go, I don't want to say segment, but a new item to the boardroom agenda that we're going to be addressing each week is forecasting. We're not taking enough of a look ahead to the future weeks in the show, so it's something that's quite important. While it's important to look back, understand where we are, and apply that to the next week, it's also important to look ahead at the upcoming week, so we're going to do just a little bit of that. But before we do that, Anthony, thoughts on Chase versus Higgins? I mean, Chase. I've probably been lower on Higgins than consensus for some time. I still am. And I think Chase is going to be a superstar. And I think he's already better than Higgins is now. So Chase, simple. I mean, I don't even got to think about that one. Chase is the guy with the chemistry with Burrow. Not that Higgins doesn't have some as well, but again, the college connection. Chase is already looking outstanding, just 5 games in. It's only going up for Chase. I mean, things will possibly improve for Higgins too, but no, Chase. Chase versus Swift in non-PPR. Comparing wide receivers to running backs. In redraft, though, in non-PPR, probably Chase. If it's non-PPR, yeah. Yeah, in full PPR, no question. Half PPR, I'd probably still say Swift, but non-PPR, yeah, you got to go Chase. And redraft, yeah. It's definitely redraft. I mean, if it was Dynasty, I would still say Swift. Well, not non-PPR, but yeah. So looking ahead to week 5, first things first, absolute game of the week for me, no doubt, is Chargers versus the Ravens. We got Herbert Lamar. We got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen going against Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. We got Austin Eckler. We got Jared Cook. We got Rashad Bateman. Tyson Williams, baby. No, I digress. This is just, again, going to be a bonanza. These are two of the great young quarterbacks in the league. This is going to be a tremendous football game. This is going to be a fantasy bonanza. I make sure in DFS this is absolutely one game you're targeting. And if you roster any of these players, I'd work to get any and all of them in your lineups. If you have any fantasy-worthy players here in this matchup, they should be playing. And as a football fan, this is just going to be one hell of a football game. What a matchup, especially for this time of the year. It's going to have big playoff implications too. Probably tiebreaker and play later on in the year, potentially. Looking ahead, I do expect the big name QBs to have really, really good weeks this week. I mean, expect Rodgers, Mahomes, Lamar, again, Brady, Hurts will be there. Herbert's going to be fine. Dak's going to have a decent game, I expect. Kyler, depending on his shoulder, we'll see. But again, everybody that was at the top of the quarterback leaderboards, I think you're going to see a very chalky day at quarterback. Looking ahead to running back, just want to say Taylor Swift. Once again, expect dominant production from both. For me, no reason not to expect it. In the case of Detroit, they are facing Cincinnati, who are just getting scorched by running backs, particularly receiving running backs. Swift is the leading receiving running back in the league, so boom. You do the math. Swift is going to absolutely eat. And Jonathan Taylor is going against a putrid Houston defense. And assuming he gets, I would love to see them give him more, but still, they give him 15 touches, whatever. Expect him to do well. Jonathan Taylor, baby. Jonathan Taylor. Okay. Tay-Tay. Jonathan Tay-Tay. That's what's up, Mike. I always forget the H. So, yes. Or are you talking about Devontae? No. Jonathan Taylor. Dominant again. Wide receiver only have one real confident call, and that is Scary Terry is going to deliver you a top 5 performance this upcoming week. That's right. Terry McLaurin against the Kansas City Chiefs is going to make sweet, beautiful music with one Taylor Heineke. It's going to be it's going to be great. I love Terry McLaurin. What a stud. So much fun to watch. And the Kansas City Chiefs having just an awful defense for somebody who's still bitter about a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Yeah, doesn't upset me. The best team name if you have Taylor and Swift. I have 4 teams named Taylor Swift. Unfortunately, I was only able to put together 4 teams with that duo. Taylor was hard to grab early on. Swift is all over. Taylor, not so much. But yeah, Taylor Swift, my favorite teams. Should I offer a first for Sam Newton? In Dynasty, of course. In Superflex, I have to assume absolutely not otherwise. And sucks that it costs a first now. You probably could have gotten him for a second in the offseason, but I would, yeah. I'm not really discouraged by his poor outing on Sunday. I think what we saw for the first month of the season, now maybe not the same rushing touchdowns, just those aren't going to continue. That's not sustainable. But So overall, strong performance is something that, frankly, I see no reason to expect to stop. So he'll grow. He's still going to be with the Panthers for at least the next couple of years. Joe Brady and Matt Rule are unlikely to go anywhere. I don't know. Maybe somebody's going to back up the Frank check for Brady for turning Sam Darnold into a stud. But for now, again, not really thinking that. Okay, Dustin says yes in Superflex. So I would give up a first for Darnold in Superflex, yes. So tight end position, looking ahead here, finishing off the position look ahead for week 5. Now, I know Dustin was saying Schultz over Knox. Sure. But for this week, I'm telling you the Dawson and Knox show is going to continue. The Monday night game between the Bills and the Titans is going to be another fantasy bonanza, I think, much like Chargers-Ravens will be, but maybe even more so because we have worse defenses there in the Bills-Titans. Well, one worse defense in the Bills-Titans matchup. And in the case of the Bills, it just feels like as strong as they are, stats are a little bit inflated by some weaker matchups they were able to take advantage of. That said, they've also still dominated strong matchups. It just feels like someone's going to have to give a little bit. And while I expect them, obviously, to win the game, I think that the Titans are going to get theirs, including a breakout from A.J. Brown. So hopefully Julio's playing as well. We'll see. But Dawson Knox, more importantly, in that game, is just going to terrorize, once again, the awful, awful 11 players that the Titans call a defense. And now Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not worth the first. No, just if you have him, he's fine, and he'll give you good weeks, whatever. That would not go make any moves for Jared Goff, sir. No. And definitely not a first. Higgins in a 6th for Jalen Hurts and a 15th. 1 QB, half PPR. Oh, 2-player keeper. Okay, so half PPR have Diggs, Shepard, Marvin Jones, Jacoby Myers, and Hardman. Also have Stafford. This is So you would be trading Higgins in a 6th to obtain Hurts in a 15th? And you also have Stafford. If that's your 6th round pick next year, I probably would not do that. Well, I do think Hurts is locked and loaded as an RB1 on a weekly basis. I think Stafford's going to be there the majority of weeks moving forward. So I wouldn't trade a valuable receiver, which I see Higgins as, and some capital from next year. I wouldn't. I'd ride Stafford. I'd keep Stafford and Higgins over Hurts. Yeah, I'd keep, rather ride Stafford, keep Higgins and my 6th round pick next year than bring in Hurts. So Hurts would be awesome to have, but not at that cost. 3 wide receiver league, yeah. So I would definitely keep Higgins there, even though you do have a nice little wide receiver core there. I actually really like that. Diggs, Shepard, Marvin Jones, Jacoby Myers. Got a lot of similar teams, actually. So nice. And very good for half PPR. Correct. Dustin gave a high first for Goff, had Russ. Oof. Did I miss a trade? Did I? Oh, you did. I missed that this morning. Oh my gosh, Dustin. Woof. Well, what's done is done. But I hate it. I'm sorry, but I hate it. That is. Ouch. I wish you had asked that here beforehand. And we get the thumbs up from our boy Mike. Also, Get Right Crew. Glad you're here as well. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for the question. Final topic for this evening, or not final topic, I'm sorry. Final focus of our look ahead, our forecast into week 5 is on the other top games. We kind of touched on it just a second ago. Bills, Titans, Monday Night Football. Going to be a bonanza. The Bills are going to once again dominate offensively. Titans defense sucks. The Bills' offense is awesome. Diggs is going to have a huge game. Knox is going to have a great game. Allen's going to have a great game. It's going to just be an extravaganza. And I do think you're going to see something good from the Tennessee offense. And I think A.J. Brown's finally going to have a real strong game. It's going to come. He finally, had a rough start last year, came around in week 5 against the Bills. And then this year, it's going to happen in week 6 against the Bills. So, boom. Got it. Done. Roasted. And then Cardinals-Browns is going to be a good game. Obviously, you've got that two-headed monster of Chubb and Hunt there in Cleveland, just absolutely wrecking shop. Hunt even outscoring Chubb in PPR, so this is something else there. And Cardinals have been, well, some people say the best team in the league. They are the only undefeated team in the league thus far. And they have also been, apart from this past week against San Francisco, just pouring on the fantasy points. And plenty of guys you want to have in your roster. This will be a fun game. Kind of expected Browns-Chargers to be a little low scoring last week. Didn't turn out to be the case, and I think when they play the Cardinals, we're going to see something kind of similar, as long as Kyler's shoulder is not too messed up. So hopefully he is healthy. We can get treated to a good game. And I think Denver and Las Vegas, I think this has a little bit of sneaky DFS appeal, especially from some of the players there on the Denver side of the ball, particularly the running backs, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, guys I don't think will be very highly owned, and guys that are going to have a chance to, well, actually, and Cortland Sutton, with a still banged up secondary for the Raiders, a team in turmoil. There's a lot to like about the Broncos going into this game, and I would attack that Raider defense on the daily side of the ball. And if you're rostering either of those Denver running backs, if you're rostering Cortland Sutton, if you're rostering Noah Fant, play them all. Teddy, probably have better options. But if you're in a pinch, you had Daniel Jones, that's your backup quarterback, and your regular quarterback is on bye or something this week, whatever you got to do, or you're sick of your quarterback, he's somebody you can consider. Not somebody I'd look for, but probably won't leave you with a total stinker this week. So that's one way to go. But yeah, keep an eye on this game, particularly as you build those daily lineups. Buyer's remorse, Dustin asks Dem Boys regarding that first for Goff trade. He says no. He's given a first and some for Chark. I mean, I remember that too, but just, I don't know if that's something to be proud of. I'm sorry, man. Dawson or Higbee this week? The Giants do suck versus the tight end. I haven't looked up Tennessee versus tight end specifically, but they just suck, period, on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that chemistry, particularly in the red zone, and now that we're actually starting to see him with some deeper looks, I'm riding Knox, but I'm also admittedly a little biased in this question. I'm not a very big Higbee guy. It's actually been a little similar to Knox early on in the year. Really not a ton of usage. I mean, okay, but part of what makes you question the sustainability, but the touchdowns have been there. So for me, if I'm continuing to roll the dice, it's still going to be with Knox. Where's the morning show? Man, I wish I was able to do a morning show, put it that way. Honestly, that would be a hell of a lot more fun. I'm popping in the morning. They'd be okay. Dustin Possible Cardinals to the bowl? Nah, hell no. Cliff Kingsbury is not going to any Super Bowl. Don't you worry about that. Man, what a week. So before I actually wrap up, just a little personal reflection. So if you are here solely for the fantasy football, you can just kind of tune out now. This is nothing to do with football. This is just simply life and simply talking. It's been a little bit of a challenging last week or so in life. Work's been a little bit tough. This personal life and things have been a little bit of a challenge. Just not a lot of good news has come around, my side of the tracks in the last few days. Some better, worse than others. and it's left me rather reflective. It's left me a little foggy at times, I guess I could say. When you spend a lot of time just thinking about life, thinking about what is important, thinking about why you do whatever it is you do, whether it's at that time on a micro scale or in your life on a macro scale. Sometimes weird things run through your head, but sometimes you also end up with moments of clarity, or sometimes just reminders of things you knew and maybe you needed to be slapped in the face just a little bit. I don't really want to dive into a bunch of specifics. I'm not here to do that. That's not the point of all this. The point of all this is to remember that adversity is always going to come. Whatever you're dealing with, remember there's probably somebody out there. In fact, I assure you, there is somebody out there dealing with something just just as bad or worse. You never know what somebody is going through. By the way, I mean that's a common expression, but you never know what somebody's going through. So please, be kind and considerate to everybody. Don't be an asshole. It's a real simple rule in life to say don't be an asshole. And to be frank, it's really easy to not be an asshole. Dustin says, "Keep your head up, Tycoon. You're the man." Thank you, Dustin. I will. I'll be alright. I'm just want to use this time that I have in front of the camera to talk about this a little bit, because this isn't that I'm down at the dumps necessarily or anything. Just more trying to say, in this reflective state, it's important to remember the things that actually do make sure that you're able to keep your head up. And to remember, not all's lost. It's not the end of the world for you with whatever you're facing. It never is. I do believe damn near anything can be overcome. So that's one thing to remember. But it's also to remember, priorities, and remember to make the ones you love in your life the priority, whether it's your family, your significant other, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your nephews, your cousins, your children, whoever you have, whoever is that group of people to you. Spend a lot of time with them. We got you, bro. Anything you need. Thank you, Mike. Unless you're John Gruden. Yes, thanks, Dustin. It's your platform, bro. You're speaking truth. I'm just trying to have a little touch on real life. I mean, a lot of us, myself included, use fantasy as a bit of an escape, and also I'm just a huge nerd, and this is fun. I love football, and I love trying to beat my friends at this fake, fun fantasy game. Yeah, the ones you love, keep them prioritized. Spend as much time with them as you possibly can. You never ever know when those opportunities could be taken from you, and don't take them for granted in the meantime. It's so easy to do. We all get caught up in our day-to-day lives. We have work, we have school, we have other commitments. There's a million reasons that we get caught up. Others of you that are like me, out putting your own content in fantasy football, or maybe you do it for something else. Maybe who knows what else you're actively involved in. Point being, you have a lot of time that is spoken for, so make sure that you still always set aside the time for the loved one and most important people in your lives. That is really the most important thing I want to leave with you today. No, I didn't have a death in the family or anything like that. It's just, I had other things that just made me consider what are all my priorities in life, and also very important to tell those that you love them. It's okay to tell your friends, your family, that you love them. Hey, do it. Just do it. Once again, you never know when the last chance you're even going to have the opportunity to say those words to those people. You never want to be left in your own life feeling that way, living with the guilt that maybe the last thing you said to somebody was even if it wasn't necessarily negative, you could have ended it with something sweet like that. So, just this was much more well thought out when I was thinking about it beforehand. I had a nice prompt, I should have written a script, damn it. Oh. Point being, there's more to life than all this shit that we do on the day-to-day basis. Family is everything, and family is a loose term. I don't always necessarily mean your blood nuclear family. Unfortunately for many, those are some of the worst people they have to deal with. But most of us do have people that we can call family. So whether that is your blood family, your step family, your created family, I don't care. Keep them as your family. Treat them like family. Act as a family. Be a family. Show love. Show compassion. Show kindness to everybody in your life. Be good to other people. It's very simple. I'm not saying everybody has to go be Mother Teresa, be charitable or anything necessarily. Not all that is great too, but just be good. That's it. Very simple. Because others are dealing with the same or worse terrible things that you are. Don't make it any harder on them or yourself than it has to be. And at this point, I'm getting repetitive. I just want to leave you guys with that, being positive and prioritizing your loved ones, family, keeping what is important in life as what is important in life, because it's so easy to lose sight. I'm going to skip the plugs for this week because I would like to let that marinate. But I'm not going to just end on that note. Not just like that. That's way too somber. I know it's a boardroom. I know we're in a professional setting here. But that's still just blah. But I couldn't not say it. So we still do have to end it as we typically would. And that is that week 6 is here. We are ready. Tomorrow night, Philly, Tampa Bay. It's going to be a great start to week 6. We are on to another glorious week of football. Tomorrow night, we have Game 5 of the National League Division Series. So it must be said, go Giants, beat LA. And with that, this meeting of the Fantasy Boardroom is adjourned.